In another video I talked about my Canon EF-M and some EF adapted lenses that I'm using for the Canon M6, and I think I probably hinted that I had everything I needed, didn't need anything else. Turns out that wasn't quite true. I'd been using the 55 to 200 as a kind of a general purpose longer lens, but the only problem with that lens is it's slow, and that doesn't really lend itself well to taking pictures of Gus when I want the background fully out of focus. Also, I want some really quite fast shutter speeds without cranking the ISO up too fast. So I decided I'd look for what's called a kind of a portrait E lens for the Canon in EF mount that I could adapt to the M6. And first thoughts were 85mm, because there seem to be quite a lot of those around. And then I looked at some reviews online. I think Christopher Frost did some pretty good reviews of these lenses years ago now, but he did some good reviews of these lenses, very useful. And the other lens that he looked at that I thought was interesting was the 100mm f2. So there's the 85, the ones that are in my budget price range were the 85 1.8 and the 100 f2. And so I just had a look what was out there, and it turns out there were fewer of the 100 f2, but it gets a slightly better review in terms of a bit less in aberrations and fractionally sharper, although they're both very sharp lenses. And also the 100 f2 for some reason is a bit cheaper. It's the same size, pretty much, almost identical size wise, and when it's on the camera you can see it there. I mean, it looks a bit on the big side, but that's got the lens hood on it. Now, you take the lens hood off, it's not actually, and the adapter off, it's not actually that huge. One thing I would say about this lens hood is I don't really like the design of it. It's got these kind of two indents where you press, and it's got some little plastic kind of fork eye bits that slot into a continuous indented ring all the way round the front of the lens. I don't know, but I'm a bit frightened to take the lens hood off now, because I don't really think it feels that durable, this kind of plastic springy thing. I mean, whatever happened to either a screw-in lens hood, because the front of this lens doesn't rotate at all or anything like that when it focuses, so you could just have a screw-in lens hood. Maybe I should have done that. Or you could just have a bayonet fit. However, we've had to complicate it apparently and produce this thing with strange springy forks in it, so I'm frightened to take that off now. So I don't like the lens hood, but apart from that, the lens is working out really well. And it actually, although it looks big on the M6, it actually feels, it feels just fine in your hand when you're actually using it. It feels good. And I think it's already paying dividends, but see what you think of these few sample shots with it. One thing I hadn't addressed up until now was the close focus ability of using that 100mm Canon lens, and I think for a portrait type lens, close focus can be quite important. Probably not for Gus, because if you get too close to him, he wants to inspect the front of the camera. and that's not such a good thing. But generally, sometimes you want to be able to get fairly close to your subject, so close focus can be important. So we did a quick test on the table using an inanimate object rather than a very animated object. And I think it came out, from my measurement to the film plane, came out around 92 centimetres, something like that, which I think for a 100mm lens is pretty good going. So that's my addition to the already fairly full kind of Canon EF lineup that I've got. So now, nothing further planned really on that front?